So if you'll all rise and join me, we'll open the regular meeting of the council with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It's a big day for us. It's budget day, so we're taking a time out from our regular budget hearing to conduct our regular monthly meeting. So we'll jump right onto that schedule with the approval of meeting minutes. There are two sets of meeting minutes you have for August, the regular meeting on August the 10th, and then the first review of the budget that happened a week later on the 17th. Mr. Beard, have you had a chance to review?
Well, you know, I just looked at these this morning, and I forgot to look at that regular meeting set of minutes, so I'm a little, and I guess I got lost in all the emails.
August 10th, though. Yeah.
August 10th?
You looked at them?
Did you?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Yeah.
So I have a motion to approve is that just for the 10th or for
For the
both?
10th, for the
Okay, for the August 10th meeting minutes, a motion by Jeff, a second by Ron. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. And then Clark?
I did review the August 17 minutes. Of course, you know, that's a lengthy process, and my kudos to Britt and Janet for summarizing it in there. Everything looked pretty straightforward. Of course, if anybody had any detailed questions, they'd have to go to the recording.
Yeah.
But I would make a motion to approve them as written.
Okay.
I'll second
I have
that.
a motion by Clark and a second by Jeff to approve the August 17th first reading of the budget minutes. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0 with Jake abstaining. Jake missed that particular meeting. Okay. Community Corrections, Brett, our monthly update. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, this morning we have 94 clients on our program, 3 are on CTP, and we have 10 juveniles. We also have 11 in the pipeline. Submitted all our paperwork for our fiscal audit. That'll be Friday here next Wednesday. Don't anticipate any issues there. We did have about $1,700 left from our training budget last year. Because of COVID, we didn't get to spend that down, so I'm hoping DOC will grant us to keep that, have to carry over on that. We were awarded our grant on Friday.
Good.
After months of prodding DOC on comparing our county with other counties of similar population caseloads, happy to announce we got a 28% increase.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
I'm very, very happy about that.
Yeah.
That's really all I have. Do you have any questions?
Good job.
Yeah, well done. I think that's, you've always scored so high on your visits with the state and everything, so well done. Thank you.
Are you going to announce Nancy's numbers? I just have a quick comment on that.
Well, that's next up. And Nancy, I don't believe, is with us today. Okay, so,
Only had about $300.
well, so for August, we had $2,660 in juvenile detention costs, up slightly from July. But we'd had 3 months prior to that with zero, so it's, the last 2 months have shown a jump.
We've supervised more juveniles this year than we did last year already. So that's one reason those numbers are low. They're coming my way.
Okay.
And due to that, we have about a 40,000 arrearage for those juveniles. They just don't pay, so. Looks good on one side, looks bad on another side. So
I gotcha.
just want you guys are aware of that, so.
Okay.
Why the shift? Just the way, the age? or-
I don't have an answer for that. I don't
Okay,
know.
all right, okay.
Who makes
We're
that call,
asked to
who
do
makes
it.
that call or on how that?
Probation.
Okay.
Probation. We have a lot more pre-adjudicated juveniles than we did in the past, so. Trying to keep a low board.
Okay. Well, I
Thanks.
appreciate you
Yeah.
bringing that up, because
Yeah,
I would
thanks.
not have known that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right, thanks. Next up is, you have a resolution in your packet, a joint resolution that we are going to pass in combination with the commissioners, and it has to do with the build, operate, transfer method of procurement, the discussion that we had last week. We had a presentation from the folks at Envoy. The version that was in our packets, I've actually have passed out. You should have a newer version with a more descriptive title I'll read that title. It's a lengthy title, but a joint resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Clinton County, Indiana, and the Clinton County Council, Clinton County, Indiana, adopting Indiana Code Section 5-23, adopting Indiana Code, or I'm sorry, that's in there twice. That needs to be edited. Adopting Indiana Code Section 5-23 related to the procurement of public projects by the build, operate, transfer, delivery method. So that's just simply a different way of going about, large capital projects. It's being viewed as a potential way to have some savings with regard to any upgrades that may need to be done to the Regions Bank building that was recently purchased, and potentially also for any improvements should they be done to the jail. So the first step in this process, this is not obligating us to any money, any spending, anything like that, but it simply puts in place the first step, if you will, of making the county eligible to use this procurement method. So we heard the presentation last month, and we do have a representative from Envoy here today. Carson's here with us if we need to ask any questions to refresh your memory. But if you do feel confident in saying we want to get started on this process, to have this new tool in our toolbox, I would entertain a motion to approve that resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. What our resolution does is approve the guidelines instituted in Section 5-23 of Indiana Code. So the reality is, if you want to know the details of it, you have to go read the Indiana Code. That code is not listed in the resolution itself. It's just referred to as that section to direct any member of the public to go find those rules that would now be enforced in Clinton County. So I'm sorry, I had a motion by Jake, and a second by Mike to approve this resolution. Any other questions or comments? Everybody feels comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. Are you going to send a signature? Okay. Do you need a copy? You need a, okay. These are for signature?
Yeah, minutes.
Oh, okay. Look at that. So the commissioners will take up this resolution as well tomorrow. They're having a special meeting before our budget session, and then at that point it becomes official since it's a joint resolution.
Folder.
One more. Okay, next up, the ARP, American Recovery Plan Fund usage with Keona Stidham from Central Dispatch, or Renee, or who?
So, yeah,
Okay.
she was not able to be.
Okay, well then Renee, yes.
I'm gonna briefly speak and then I'm gonna turn it over. So, thank you. I forwarded all of you an email back in August. Other than Mike and Ron, you got your email yesterday. For some reason, I did not have your email, so I am so sorry about that. But I forwarded you, as well as the commissioners back in August, a link to a news article from Miami County with ARP and bonuses for county employees, something that they had went ahead and approved for their county employees. I am here today in support of not only my dispatchers, but other county employees. I know in budget hearings, and you guys have a very important job. You have lots of things, and I understand with budgets, you have lots of projects and money, to fulfill, certain projects and things that need to be done. However, we have an outstanding group. I can only speak for my dispatchers. We have an outstanding group of dispatchers, and I am fully supporting of them, but also other county employees. I think that you need to strongly consider doing something for your employees. They're dedicated employees, not just my dispatchers, but other county employees. you're able to give raises when you can, but, you know, we don't have longevity, and that's another conversation for another day. However, I feel that you do have an opportunity at this point with the ARP money to do something and give back to your employees that have been dedicated, you know, not only through the pandemic, but many of them have been here for many years. I have not spoken to all three commissioners. I have had a personal conversation with Commissioner Ewitz, who does support this. I believe they are going to be on the agenda for probably the October meeting with the commissioners meeting to speak as well. But they wanted to come before you today. We have some dispatchers here. We have a transport officer from the sheriff's department here to speak. I want you to know that they have my full support. They wanted to have a voice to be heard before you as well. And they've continued on and done a lot of research. And like I said, I think that you need to very much consider this, but outside of the raises, and we'll have that in our budget hearing, you know, for me. But I think this needs to not be one or the other. You know, no matter what the raises are, this needs to be something considered separately. And I am here in support of them. And I'm gonna pass some items out for you that they have put together. I'm gonna turn this over to Laura Wellman. She is the shift supervisor in dispatch. She has also been a county employee for many years. She's had different roles throughout. She is a shift supervisor for my department, and I'm gonna turn it over to her, and I'll pass these out.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Like Renee said, I've worked for the county for quite some time, almost 14 years
Thank you.
now. Working for county government, it presents a lot of challenges. A very unique one was working through a pandemic as a public safety employee. We were still tasked to come to work to provide the services for the public who had a heightened need for those services over the past 19 months. We weren't given the option to work at home because we can't. We have to be there for the public. And we did. We showed up every day. We worked overtime. We covered the COVID exposures and the people who were out sick. Personally, I've had over 200 hours of overtime this year.
Wow.
Covering for shifts that needed assistance. Some of that's normal and regular. We get that. But a lot of it was due to COVID, and it was due to needing the manpower. We also understand as county employees that there's not an opportunity for merit-based raises or performance-based pay. We accept that when we come to work for the county. You're paid the salary that's allotted by the council and approved by the commissioners, and that's how it works, and we all get that. And we are appreciative of the cost of living raises that we do get. But this is an opportunity to reward the performance that has gone above and beyond in the last 19 months. We have outperformed the expectations of this pandemic, and our staff has seen it through. All the first responders have. In the pamphlet or the paperwork that was passed out, you can see that there's a list of other local governments, county, city, that are providing these type of performance pay bonuses for the COVID period. The one that we focused on was Miami County. They have a similar size population. They received a very similar amount of funding to what Clinton County received. They were able to provide their first responders with $300 a month for the duration of the pandemic. That equals less than $2 an hour of pay. So it seems like a lot, but when you break it down for the job that we've done during that time period, it is not a huge increase. Miami County made it so only the employees who worked during the pandemic were eligible, which I think is a good thing to do. Don't think you necessarily need to offer it to new hires who are coming in. You don't need to back pay people who have left, and there have been some people. But those of us who have been there from March 2020 to current, those are the employees that we believe we should focus on. Again, we still came to work. We were not given days off. We were not allowed to work from home. I don't have an issue with the people who were allowed to do that. That was needed and that should have happened, but we were still there. We were still coming in. We were still answering phones. The ambulances were still responding. The law enforcement officers were still there, the corrections officers. I know in the meeting on June 8th, Jake Myers brought up that he thought that this should be an opportunity. And it was discussed very briefly in that meeting how this was approved funding. But there are a lot of good options out there to spend that money on. A lot of infrastructure. It was even brought up that this money could be used for private businesses. But I really want to ask, what is more important than your employees? You can build buildings, you can make repairs, but if you don't have the people there, if we're not showing up to work and you're not rewarding that, especially during a time like this, then what's the point? Again, like Renee said, we have some support from the commissioners. We will be going before them in October. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but this is something that we've all kind of come together and tried to research so we can present to you.
Any questions for Laura?
No, very good, very good.
Thank you to whoever did the work of putting
Yeah,
this all
good job.
together. Thank you for doing that. That's,
They did this,
I appreciate it very much.
They worked hard on this.
Appreciate it very much. And Laura, you almost stole the words out of my mouth. I was gonna recognize that Jake did bring this up earlier and that because the ARP money, I guess what I would almost ask you to visualize is it's almost a parallel budget that doesn't have to do with the budget we're discussing now. And it's on its own timeline. It's on a separate timeline. And I guess where I personally come down on this is that this is certainly a high priority kind of an item, but I do want to see what some of those other numbers look like before we start actually divvying the money out. We have, if I remember right, until the end of 2024, I believe, to actually spend that money. So that becomes awkward when it comes to paying for service during a pandemic that I want to say it's in the past. It's not in the past. It's still going on. But I don't think we're ready to make that decision right now, I guess is is my personal opinion. I have talked to Josh. I'm aware of Josh's opinion, and we've had some just discussions back and forth on what we thought we could afford to do and some things like that. But even those have a little bit of a star by them because I think we've got other things that we've got to contemplate. We've got to think about out of that pot of money. So I don't know where I'm going with this other than to say I really appreciate you coming in. I understand and appreciate your service. I think that the taxpayers understand and appreciate your service. It's certainly on my radar as something to use as one of the uses, one of the high priority uses of this money, but I don't know that I'm prepared to say yes or to even start contemplating what the amount would be until we know kind of where we are on everything. And we've only gotten half the money is the other thing. We haven't even gotten the full allotment yet, so I think there's a lot of people going around saying we've got $6 million to spend, and that's not technically true yet. We will eventually, but we haven't gotten all of that money yet. With some things coming at us pretty hot and heavy, I think that we're going to need to deal with on a kind of an emergency basis with regard to some of the facilities. So, and I guess I would also just encourage you to think about that too. When we view that, or when I view that anyway, we're talking about trying to make some upgrades in facilities, and in large part that's because we want to make those upgrades for the benefit of the employees that work there. So, I mean, you are front and center in our minds when we think about those things too. Any comments?
Yeah, the wheels of government don't move without these people. And they continue to roll, they continue to move, they continue to work, even when a lot of people were able to work from home. You know, and as a police officer, I was on call, allowed to stay at home when we went down to minimum staffing. But that meant that I had to come in. That restricted my movement, restricted my ability to be able to go anywhere. Specifically for the group of dispatchers out there, they had to be in there. You know, you had courthouse employees that had to be here to keep the wheels of government moving. I totally 100% support a bonus for all the employees that, you know, and whatever that number may be, I don't know. I mean, that'd be something definitely to be worked out. But, you know, I feel
That's my whole
100%.
point, is we got to work it out.
So,
We got to
and
work it out.
And I think trying to work that out sooner than later is a better idea than to wait. I mean, we've got half that money that's come in, the other half will be here, so we know we're getting it.
The things that I'm referring to, Jake, are numbers that we expect to get within days or weeks. So this is not anything that's going to get drawn out. I guess I want to be clear about that. But some of the cost estimates from the studies we've had done on the Regions building and on the jail, you know, we're going to get those reports back very short order.
Whenever we get this money though, I think this needs to be a priority. I know we got a lot on our plate and everything, but I think this needs to be one of our top priorities.
Again, I've said the same thing, but we're going to have further discussions about So does someone that was a county employee that did work from home get treated differently than someone that came to the office?
No,
There's things that have to be worked out and more
They
clear.
still worked.
I understand, but that was a different level of exposure than the people that had to come to work, or come to the county facilities.
Well, I just think that you've done the proper thing. You've done exactly what you need to do. You're being heard. And as Alan has stated, there's projects that are being talked about, and you've done exactly what you needed to do, and that's just hate to say get in line, but that's what these projects are, right? And we just need to, with commissioners, of course, just start prioritizing things, and that really hasn't been done yet, so.
One thing I will say that I think I can confidently say on behalf of the council at least, is you'd referenced how, and it's true that one of the allowable uses is to give aid to public, or to private businesses. I don't think anybody on this council feels that we're gonna do that
I
within.
just brought it up because it was specifically mentioned in the meeting.
It is an allowable
Yes.
use.
Yeah,
It is an allowable use. But I think that what we wanna do is things that are gonna benefit, county government, both the employees and then the employees' ability to provide service to the taxpayer. So, thank you for taking the time to come in. I guess I'm not, unless somebody wants to go forward, I just don't feel like we're in a position to where we can take an official action today, but we certainly will take it under advisement and appreciate you coming today. Yes, sir.
Just to add to it, Rich Kelly, Sheriff. Understandable on the projects and everything that goes forward in the future, but a lot of this grant money, when it first started, or relief money, I'm sorry, for COVID, and I understand the process of everything, but it actually is maybe just a drop in the bucket as to the bigger projects that are involved, and knowing the other projects, especially on the sheriff's office end. That's a lot of money, and that's something that's gonna be drawn out over a lot of years if we're able to accomplish truly the best project or best outlook. But our employees do go to work every day. They do show up when we're short. We have to lean on the others that are still healthy to come out and cover these shifts and take these calls. And it is something. This is not yesterday. It's not a week ago. We've been doing this since 2020. And, and it does weigh on everyone. EMS had the ability to increase their pay to bring in other staffers. Dispatches suffered in losing, and other people going to different jobs, things like that. So the role of what these folks do is paramount to getting EMS to the call, because they don't get the call, they don't go. Sheriff's office, our deputies on the road taking calls, our corrections staff. We've had zero cases of COVID in our facility. Why? Because our people do their job by quarantining, by isolating inmates, by doing their job and taking care of themselves outside of the facility with that understanding. So do they change the way that they have lived over the last 2 years? Yes, without a doubt. And I ask them, use your best judgment. Use your best judgment when you go to the public anywhere, to a Colts game or to wherever you're at. Use these protocols, things like that. I can't mandate a lot of things to them, but I can ask them, and they've came through. And I think dispatch has done the same thing. And so is our county highway. Don't leave out our county highway guys. We've had enough construction and everything else, and these folks still show up for work. So with that, that's how I feel about it. I appreciate the dispatch stepping up and bringing the numbers and things like that. And I appreciate you guys taking it under, advisement or having consideration for it. But these folks do, and they do deserve something, and probably sooner than later would suffice. And it's and we know that it's a lot of things going on, and projections of what we want to accomplish over the next several years. But a lot of these projects are years that will take to complete, if not over a year. So with that, I do feel like it does have to be addressed sooner than later, and I would appreciate it. I know our employees would appreciate it. I know our community would appreciate it. I don't think there would ever be any pushback on it. So thanks for your time.
Okay. Thank you, Sheriff.
Yeah, thanks, Sheriff. As Ms. Wellman stated, when we found out about private sector could be talking at this meeting, and I'm from the private sector, so I was, you could be sitting here with Arnie's employees and things like that, and and maybe we still will, I don't know, but, yeah, there's a lot of responsibility for this resource here. And nobody's saying anything about, you know, the work that you're doing and the people that love you and think you're doing great jobs, and we're safer because of all of you. You're doing exactly what you need to do, and thank you.
There's one other, I'll make only one other point, in that we have engaged Baker Tilly to help us work through the labyrinth of reporting and requirements that you have to go through on this money. One of the things that I think plays into this is that there's a whole lot of different pots of money that some of these projects we have in mind could apply to that would not require it to use our $6 million. We could apply to for an EDA grant, for instance, for some of the things that we're contemplating. Some of those things are the rulemaking from the Treasury Department they're still being, every week there's updates to that rulemaking on what you can do and what you can't do and who can apply for what. And so that's another concern that I have about moving too quick, is that we don't even totally know 100% the rules to the game just yet. So I guess what I would be willing to commit today, if we want to make sure that we're moving forward, is that we'll have a decision on this by the end of the year. I mean, I think that's doable. We'll know what we need to know before the end of the year, probably sooner than that. So with that, I'll ask if anybody else in the group, or if anybody on the council has any other comments. Yes, sir.
Tim Dillingham, transport officer for 15 years. What I would say with this money is the American Rescue Plan is, I'm not going to say it's found money, but this is a once-in-a-100-year event. I mean, the pandemic's a once-in-a-100-year event. When are you ever going to get a chance to give the employees a bonus? It's just not going to happen with budget constraints. We know that. We understand that. We understand the raises we get. We're thankful for them. But this just seems like a perfect opportunity to reward the employees. Give all the employees a message and incentive that says, we value you. You know, like Laura said, we don't get performance-based pay. I can do my job perfectly for 15 straight years, and I'm not going to get anything extra for that. The person that walks in the door from day one makes the same amount of money that I do. So I just think this is a golden opportunity. I think the infrastructure and the Regions Bank and that money, I think you're going to have to allocate money for that no matter what. And I understand you want to hedge some of the taxpayer funds and use some of this money for that, and we're fine with that. But we just want the employees to be considered as a number one option. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Anyone else? Well, thank you all for your time to come, and thank you for putting together the information. It is, you have been heard. We will consider it. We will do something. It's just not today. So be patient and let us go through the process, and we'll get there eventually. So appreciate your passion for your job and for this topic. So with that, we'll move on our agenda to the much more dull topic of additional appropriations. We have several for this particular month. And I'm going to get my stack out here. Beginning with the appropriations for county general. The first one is an item we've talked about, I think, over 3 meetings now, and this will kind of culminate the process of the story of the commissary fund reimbursement, the grant reimbursement. You'll recall that first got brought up a couple of months ago, and we denied putting it back in the commissary because we effectively used it as a way for the commissary to help pay for some of the cost of some of the SWAT gear that we had recently purchased. Then we determined last month that we really needed to put it back into the commissary per the terms of the grant itself. And so this month is the actual appropriation to put it back into the commissary fund per the terms of the grant. So that was $11,937.32. From the auditor's office, you'll see we have $137.52 that was a refund from First Merchants. It was money that was sent over from the county to help start a HSA account, but one particular individual did not open an account, so that money is being given back to the county. We had a reimbursement, a COVID reimbursement of $3,398.40 for some jail supplies. We got a rebate from our group purchasing organization for Parkview Home for, on the food purchasing of $210.86, sort of a commitment rewards refund. Britt, this next one, I do actually have a question for you. It says time clock maintenance. It's $86.50, and is this actually maintenance, or is this for like startup of the time clock